What's good, man? It's Western Groove. Um, I'm gonna talk about the top five complaints that I've kind of seen from some of the Call of Duty World War II videos, and I'm just gonna talk about what I think about the five complaints. So, a little backstory is just to know that I think the last Call of Duty I bought was Black Ops 2 or Modern Warfare 3. It was one of those. I mean, I bought Black Ops 3, but I didn't buy it when it first released. I bought Black Ops 3 a handful of months ago because I was feeling like just the itch to play Call of Duty. And I bought it. I spent $60 on the deluxe package or whatever. I was like, yeah, I'm gonna get the download content and all this stuff, and I'm gonna play Call of Duty, and it's pretty bad. And then the zombies. I'm not gonna say the zombies are bad, but the zombies are so confusing, and not have playing zombies since I don't know Black Ops 1, maybe Black Ops 2. I don't know if I got around. I don't know if I bought Black Ops 2, but it was just like kind of out of my league, I guess. And I didn't get it. All these gumball machines and different ways to get weapons. I wasn't used to that. I was used to just straight up buy a perk and shoot zombies and survive. Like that's it. Uh, but this Call of Duty World War II kind of has me excited. Like I might be falling for the hype. I might be getting a little bit. Can't wait for this game. Now, what I always do, no matter what, at the end of the day, I don't let that get to me. I'm gonna wait a month or two while the game's out and see what the community has to say about it. But now that that's out the way, let's get to the topic. So these are in no particular order. I'm gonna start with the change in the perk system, and I'm gonna make this one quick. I've seen some complaints about the change of the perk system. People calling it like that's classic Call of Duty, and they're copying Battlefield and whatnot. And the way that I feel about it is just that we'll have to see. We don't really know what's gonna go on with the perk system. We're gonna have to play it when we get the beta. We'll see. That's a good thing is we will get the beta. That's probably how I might figure out if I'm gonna buy the game or not. I might get the beta, and if it really is how I feel it should be, then I might go ahead and pre-order that thing. But it's just more the perk system now is more of just like Battlefield. If you played that, not just like Battlefield, but it seems like they kind of looked at what Battlefield has been doing because their game, even though that community still has complaints, that game's community seems happier with their games over the last few years than the Call of Duty franchise's community. So I think that they kind of were looking to seeing what is that game doing right, and they implemented this new perk system called divisions. And I think it's just like I don't know what they call. I forget what they call in the Battlefield loadouts or whatever. I think it's just a way to add more, to add more, to lock you down from certain things. You know what I mean? You can't have a shotgun and this perk and that perk and that perk and this attachment and that attachment, and then and just rule the battlefield. You have to. I think that they wanted to be more teamwork because I think that the game mode that they're going to be trying to push to the limits the most is that new. I think they call it war. I think they call it. I forget what it's called, but where you have to it's like operations in Battlefield, but the difference is instead of just holding a spot, it might be some. I think it said it might be something like, oh, you have to build this bridge. You know what I mean? And they have to keep you from building that bridge. And if you complete building that bridge, then you get the spot, and stuff like that, which sounds really fun, and which would in that game mode, having the divisions will work really well because it will work as more of a strategic game, especially if this Call of Duty can get back to the old Call of Duty days with where the chat, where the lobbies are just full of people talking, and you got a team of people, and you guys can actually oh, you're running this, you're running this, you're running that. All right, I'm gonna run this so that we can all work together as a team to beat the objective. and they said like they're not counting deaths or something in that game mode. So I think that for me particularly and how I like to play, that could be a really interesting game mode, and that the divisions will give it a boost because I like more of the what kind of made me fall off from Call of Duty initially was I was feeling like I fell off from playing just TDM. You know what I mean? Like, oh, that's so just so boring, just running around pointlessly killing people. So I moved on to domination and would play other game modes and whatnot. But you know how Call of Duty is. People don't want to play those game modes. They just want to run around on TDM or domination and see how many kill. You know, get their kill death as high as it can. So I'm hoping that the divisions and this game mode is fun, and hopefully it doesn't count towards your kill death, so all these people won't be worried about that while playing this game mode, and we can get like some good fun competitive, like it could feel more like war with that type of game mode, you know. But moving on, the gore. I mean, I seen a video where they showed the gore, and like, yeah, the gore is there, but it's sometimes almost like they're holding it back from how gory it could be, and a lot of the times it's cartoony, you know. I think that I think what Call of Duty does, right, and I don't think I'm the only one or first person to say this or anything like that, is I think that they realize is out of 100% of the people who buy the game, maybe 40% of those, 30-40% of those people get halfway through the campaign. Maybe that many. And it's all in the multiplayer, and their multiplayer will be scrutinized. They could almost have anything crazy in their campaign, and it won't be scrutinized. But if it's in the multiplayer, then people are gonna come down heavy on them. So I think that they're keeping the gore to a minimum as possible. They still want to give some effect of, oh, it's World War II, it's war, it's bloody, but they keep it to a minimum because when little Charlie, who's 10 years old, goes and tells his mom he wants to buy this game, and then he plays it, and she's sitting there watching him play, and she's just seeing like just blood and guts flying everywhere, she might, you know, start a whole movement of moms talking about we don't want Call of Duty in our homes, you know, which I don't agree with. You know, I wish that they would make the game more gory. More, I think I wish they would have went all the way, like just craziness. You know, like when you shoot someone's uh, face, that like part of their fucking face is gone. Like I wish they would have went that far. So the next thing I'm gonna get to is, again, which kind of ties in with this topic, is no swastikas in the multiplayer. I think like I'm not really gonna get into this one. It's for the same reasons, you know. If little Charlie, 10-year old, is sitting there playing with his mom, and not playing with his mom, but playing, and his mom watches, and there's a whole bunch of swastikas on the wall, you know, she might feel some kind of way about that. So I'm gonna move on from that. So next we got the reloading mechanics slash amount of rounds in the magazine or stripper clip or cartridge, whatever you want to call it. I've seen some complaints about that, and I can see how someone would be kind of disappointed in that, you know, wanting the game to be more realistic. Okay, look, see, that was number four. So I'm gonna go ahead and talk about number four and number five together. So I'm gonna restate that the reloading mechanics, the magazine, cartridge, stripper clip amounts, you know how much is in each one, women in the multiplayer, black women in the multiplayer, and black men in the multiplayer. All of these things do tie in to just the, I mean, okay, all right. So the reason that I feel that they put these things in the game and they implemented these things in the game, and the reason I think that they got to that point and felt that it was okay is because Call of Duty is an arcade shooter. That's what I think. It's not Battlefield advertises itself, and the players that they're trying to get are kind of more mature players. You know what I mean? It's kind of geared towards a more mature audience. Um, it's supposed to be a war simulator, and and Call of Duty, excuse me. Call of Duty is an arcade shooter game. You know what I mean? 50, 60 years from now, when you go to the bowling alley and you see fucking games half lit up that can barely be played and stuff like that, they're going to be Call of Duty games in those. You know, Call of Duty is an arcade shooter game. So when I look at the reloading mechanics, I look at that as balance. When I look at the amounts, like people are saying, "Oh, this isn't how you reload it. You couldn't put in a stripper clip on the top of a Springfield when it has a scope on top of it. This gun has this many rounds, not that many." And I feel like they peeped those things. They saw that. They know what's up, but they needed to do these things for balance in the game. Not to make every weapon realistic, but for balance in the game. Because if there was no balance, then later on people would come and complain about there being no balance in the game. You know what I'm saying? If the Springfield, you had to load it one round by one round by one round, then what do you do? Do you give it a crazy uh, boost in damage? Do you give it a nerf in recoil or just overall weapon sway? You know what I mean? Like make that less. I don't know what you do there. With this pistol, do you give it a few rounds or take a few or do you give it an extra few rounds and make it an actual viable option? You know what I mean? You would have weapons in the game, like they want to put weapons in there that represent what the soldiers were really using, but for the balance of the game you might have to give a weapon an extra 2 rounds. You might have to make the Springfield just load the whole damn clip from the top instead of one by one for the balance of the game. Because if they didn't do that at the beginning, you guys would be cheering them for being realistic, and then you guys would be complaining to them for the game not having balance. So now moving on more towards the black women and black men in the combat. I mean, I look at it the same way. It's a like for me personally, I don't really care. It's an arcade shooter. I've never played a Call of Duty and really felt like, oh my god, I'm so much like in this war zone and this is so real, and these are the people who are there. It's like, you know what I mean? Like it's never like when I play Battlefield. Sometimes I can get like that because Battlefield is made differently when they have when you start getting suppressed, and you know what I mean. Like it's just made differently. When these guys, when like I don't know, just maybe it's just it is a personal thing, but I don't feel like if I buy this game right and I start playing that war game mode or whatever it's called, the one like operations, and I'm having a lot of fun with it, and I'm feeling like, man, I feel so refreshed playing this Call of Duty. This is what I've been waiting for. I don't think that as I'm playing and I'm playing against Germany and I kill a black woman, that it would bother me none, because the whole game is built off of just, you know what I mean? Like the action. It's like when you're fighting, you're gonna be fighting all these close quarters and running and gunning and doing all this stuff. That's not realistic on its own. The whole mechanic and the way the game works is not realistic. So I don't have this realistic expectation of the game. I have a fun expectation of the game. I have a balanced expectation of the game more than I have a realistic one. And I just think that people are just kind of going too far with that one. Like I understand in the campaign if it was something like that. That's crazy. But this is just multiplayer. Just because all men and all women across the world who pick up the game want to have a player that can represent them in Call of Duty online arcade multiplayer doesn't that to me, just for me, that doesn't strike me as anything crazy at all. It makes me feel like, I mean, a lot of the people complaining, of course, are like I even saw one person who was a white man, and he was complaining about them having black men in it, and like one of the things that he said in the one of the things that he mentioned, to like back up his argument was that they that World War II was fought on the American side, told by the eyes of America, was fought by mostly white men, which is true, which is a fact. That is not to be debated. But the fact is also that black men fought in that war. So I don't know if they're like choosing World War II settings that no black people have ever fought in, or things like that. You know what I mean? Hispanics fought in the war. I want to say, like all kind of people. If you're a fucking American and you are a man of age in shape, you feel me? You was gonna go fight, right? I mean, at least I'm not a World War II historian. That's what I know of it. That's what I thought it was. I thought it was a draft. I thought they had a draft where you didn't have a choice. You had to go to war. All the black men, all the Asian men, all the non-Japanese Asian men, I guess, all the Hispanic men, all the Arab men, everybody. You had to, if you were Canadian, and then you became you moved to the United States. I guess you would have to sign up for the draft. I don't know how they do it with that, but that's what I was under the understanding of. So I'm not under the understanding that there was women fighting. Now that is one thing. I am not, to my knowledge, on the American side, we did not have any women in combat. To my knowledge, I mean, of course, maybe we had one or two, but there was nothing substantial of women in combat. But there were substantial amounts of other races of men in combat during World War II, and to me, I kind of feel like a lot of these white people are getting their feelings hurt, especially when they see World War II and how much is talked about, and to see, and just to even have to face the fact that they didn't, it wasn't just a white done operation done alone. That's almost like the way that he explained it with, oh, World War II was fought by mostly white men. Like, it's a mostly white country. It don't know shit. Mostly white people fucking do everything. But that's like if Russia talked about World War II or made a game and they were like, nah, we're not gonna add the Americans. It was mostly Russians. So for being realistic, we're not gonna add the Americans. That's really not realistic, because if you want to be real about it, there were Americans. Maybe not as many Russians, but there were Americans. So when you want to be realistic about World War II and the people who fought and died there was a lot of black men who went overseas, who fought, who died, who lost, who hurt, who cried, who went through the same exact things that every other white man in World War II went through. And those men came home and were told, nope, can't use your GI Bill here. Don't serve niggers. Like, so then for you to later on down the line try and discredit those men by saying, because there weren't most of them in World War II, they don't deserve to be on a video game, is kind of crazy. Now, even the thing with the women, see, and I don't care if it's black women or white women. To me, it's an arcade shooter. Like, to me, it's just like it's like a character. You know what I mean? It's like, I just look at it as like they let us play World War II setting with World War II guns, and you get to create a character. Like, you know what I mean? I expect the story mode, the campaign, to be more in line with what was realistic. than the multiplayer. So that's all I gotta say about that. Like, comment, subscribe. Comment. I mean, you can comment if you disagree. Comment if you agree. I want to know what you guys are thinking about that. This is just a few of the complaints I've heard, and the women and the black men in the combat is just the one that I've heard the most. So I wanted to speak on that. It's Western Groove, and I'm out.
Words. I'll always dream a dream with you. So